Welcome to Turning Hard Times to Good Times. I am your host, Jay Taylor, speaking to you from the Borough of Queens. It is the 4th day of October 2022. And I do want to thank all of you for listening to this show, making it one of the more popular shows on the Voice America Business Channel. Also, I'd like to encourage you to continue sending along whatever comments you have about this show. Send those to questionsfortaylor@gmail.com. Questions, the number 4, Taylor@gmail.com. Of course, we do want to thank our sponsors, because without them, there would be no show. Our sponsors for this week: Irving Resources, Noble Resources, Gold Bull Resources, El Oro Resources, Rena Gold Corp, and Lion One Metals. The title of this week's show is Adam Taggart Assesses Global Markets. Well, Adam Taggart and Daniel McAdams return as guests today, and geologist Cherry Leedon visits for the first time. Adam Taggart is the founder of the YouTube channel Wealthion, which at latest count has around 151,000 subscribers. Wealthion provides a very valuable insights from numerous guests, many of whom are and have been guests on this show over the years: Alistair McLeod, John Rubino, Daniel DiMartino Booth, Rick Rule, Lynn Alden, and James Rickards, just to name a few. Adam frequently likes to start out his interviews by asking his guests what their assessment of today's economy and financial markets are. So that is a question I want to try to get an answer from Adam on. He has the opportunity of sifting through the intellects that are on his show, and I really do enjoy his show, and I'm really looking forward to see how Adam is processing all that information that flows his way and that he sends out to those subscribers of Wealthion. Adam is a great interviewer himself, and I would I think he has the kind of interview skills that Charlie Rose had. Those of you who might have been familiar with Charlie Rose agree or disagree with his politics. He was a good interviewer when he was doing that, and I think Adam really reaches that level, actually, in terms of his skills as an interviewer. Geologist Cherry Leedon will join me for the first time today to introduce a new sponsor to this show, namely Gold Bull Resources. Gold Bull already has a gold resource of around 500,000 ounces of gold, but most importantly, from my point of view, it has great exploration potential, and that's the reason that I own the stock and have put it in my newsletter as well. And given this horrible bear market up until last week when the Bank of England changed strategies and pivoted, the stock's been selling at around 5 cents a share. And so I think this is something that speculative investors might want to pay close attention to. It's really one of my favorite speculations at this point in time. Well, Cherry will join me right after our first commercial break, but right now I'm happy to tell you that a friend of mine from many years ago, Daniel McAdams, is here with me again, for the first time in a long time, though. Daniel is the executive director of the Ron Paul Institute for Peace and Prosperity. He served as foreign affairs advisor for Congressman Paul from 2001 until Dr. Paul's retirement at the end of 2012. In 1990, he worked as a journalist based in Budapest, Hungary, including as editorial page editor of the Budapest Sun. He also served as a special rapporteur for the British Helsinki Human Rights Group while based in Europe, monitoring human rights and elections on the ground in various contentious states, including Albania during the 1996-1998 civil unrest, Montenegro, Georgia, Armenia, Belarus, Croatia, and Slovakia. He has a Phillips Foundation Journalism Fellow. He served there in that capacity, and as an American Swiss Foundation Young Leader in 2006. He holds a bachelor's degree in English from the University of California at Berkeley, and has actually completed coursework for a master's in international relations, which, of course, he has served Ron Paul in the past and is continuing to serve and work with Ron Paul at the present time. So, Daniel, I just introduced you, gave our folks a little background on you, and with just about 4 or 5 minutes left here, I told our listeners that we're going to have you back in a couple of weeks, so we'll have a chance to hear a lot from you then. A lot of things I want to get your update on, but maybe just with the little time that we have, tell our listeners about the Ron Paul Institute for Peace and Prosperity and how people can sort of keep up with it.
Sure. Well, thanks very much for having me again, Jay. last time when we used to talk pretty regularly, we were just getting started, and it was pretty tough getting started, and it's still very tough, obviously, when you go against the machine, when you go against the zeitgeist. It's really tough because you've got to pay the bills and you've got to expand. But we've had a great year. We're having 3 conferences this year. We had our Houston conference. We had one in D.C., and then we're having one down here in Lake Jackson on November 5th. It's called Shut Up, Cancel Culture, and the War on Speech. So This is a big deal, as you know, Jay, because if you basically say something and get out of line, they cancel you. You lose your social media. You lose your ability to talk to people. You may lose your job. So we're going to explore that in November down here in Lake Jackson. So it's just great that we've been able to do more things. And I think since we've been talking regularly, Dr. Paul and I do the daily Ron Paul Liberty Report live at noon Eastern time on Rumble. So every day we're doing that. On Friday, Chris Rossini is with Dr. Paul just doing economics issues. So we're expanding what we're doing. We're just excited about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's even worse than getting canceled. You're sometimes called a racist or a seditionist, I guess. If you stand up for the Constitution, the right of free speech, you insist on your right to be heard, and then you're considered to be what is the term they used for January 6th?
Insurrectionist.
An insurrectionist where there were no guns involved. I always wondered how that could be an insurrection, because if there really was an insurrection, you'd have thought there'd be some real well-trained people running into the Congress with machine guns instead of flagpoles and Trump signs. But I don't know. I don't get it, I guess.
Exactly. Exactly.
Well,
no, I mean, you're right.
Yeah, because we just don't have much time. But I would just ask you to you were involved in ferreting out elections in tough places in the past. I don't know exactly how you did that, but how do you see in election integrity in the United States now, where it seems as though this was supposed to be the place where everybody trusted. Everybody thought this was the beacon of freedom and democracy in the United States and fair elections. And so Jimmy Carter and others went around the world to help people do what we do so well in the United States. But it seems as though people aren't trusting our elections so much anymore. What are your thoughts?
I think it is a big problem. And, I don't know the specifics of what happened, but I certainly don't believe that our last election was clean. A lot of people made assertions as to what may have happened, but I do know there's a lot, as a former election observer myself, when you go to bed with one result and the next morning you wake up and it's flipped upside down, that's a massive red flag, I mean, the old-fashioned, I've gone to many, many vote counts overseas, the old-fashioned way where you dump out a barrel of ballots, you have observers from all the political parties there, and you count them in everyone's presence, everyone signs off on the process verbal, and it's all done. You can easily do that. I don't know why we've got to such an amazingly complicated system that there's no transparency whatsoever, there's no record of your votes. We need to have a serious rethink about the whole process. And I don't mean nationalizing elections, because I think that would also be another disaster.
Right. Well, they nationalize them and make everybody do the same thing. And, I was involved a long time ago in a congressional election in Manhattan when I lived there for the Republican candidate Green. And I was I was there to count the votes, and we had the old-fashioned polls, election machines that were mechanical. They weren't digital, of course, at that time. And there was a paper trail of every single voter that went through there. And the Democrat and myself, we were there, and we talked and we went over the numbers and agreed on them, and that was it. I mean, it was pretty simple. So I don't know why things have to be so complicated, but I guess there's somebody behind it, whatever the reasons are, and maybe we can talk with you more about that, learn more from you about that in the future, or so many other topics that I really want to pick your brains on. We're going to have you back on 2 weeks from today, I believe it is, Daniel, if you're available, to give us some insights into geopolitics, which is really your bailiwick. So I look forward to having you back then in a couple of weeks. Thank you so much for spending the time with us today.
Thanks so much, Jay. Take care. I look forward to talking to you soon.